Oh boy. If there's anything Spider-Man fans want, it's more confusion about who the real Spider-Man is. In news that surprises no one, fans are more likely to show up for movies where they already like the property. It's time to get that deep gem lore. What's Theory X, and how can I get my own? All this and more on Cutting Edge Hero Live! Welcome to Cutting Edge Hero! I am the Nerd King, Danny Stewart, your host for this and every episode of Cutting Edge Hero. Jen is out this week, but so we're back to just being a bunch of dudes hanging out together.
Is it because I bullied her?
It may be, Landon. It may definitely be. I have talked to you about the way you treat the co-hosts, and you know what? You're perfect. Never change. Speaking of, I am joined today by the greatest co-host I've ever had, and that is Landon Felter. Landon, how's it going?
It is going good as always.
Good. I'm glad to see you here. I am also joined by our technical director, the incredible Randy. Last name. Tapley, the incredible Randy Tapley. Randy, how are you doing today?
I'm sad you didn't know my last name.
I know it.
Otherwise, okay.
I know it. I know it. But every time I go to say it, I instead want to say Randy Felter. Every time.
You notice how I left you hanging there too.
Yeah,
it didn't help at all.
I see it. But I will move along anyway, because I do care how you're doing, but not enough to hold the show up for it. Today we are introducing a new segment. It is called Theory X. It is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing some mindless speculation surrounding the new Superman movie coming from James Gunn. On top of that, we will have some news. We will have a review of the live action How to Train Your Dragon. But before we get into any of that, my favorite way to start off the show, Landon, what is the nerdiest thing you've done this week?
Okay, the nerdiest thing I've done this week. So me and my partner, our friends shared with us their Dropout account. So we have been watching a lot of Dropout content. We have been watching Smarty Pants. We have been watching Game Changers. We have been watching anything that looks good to us. And we have been binging that for the past week or so.
Love Dropout. I wish that they would pick us up. I would love to be in that community, but only if they take the whole DFPN with and not just us. But I am a huge fan of Game Changer. I am a huge fan of Dimension 20. I love the Bad Kids specifically, that whole Fantasy High series that Brendan Lee Mulligan and the crew have done. Make Some Noise, which is just a show that was spun out of an episode of Game Changer, and they made a whole nother show out of it. Is great. Smarty Pants cracks me up. I love the idea of presenting your own hot takes about a subject to your friends and watching them, tear you apart for it or just follow along. But yeah, huge fan. Sam Reich is an inspiration to me. I want to be just like him whenever I grow up, although I think I might be older than him. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Is your dad a former Secretary of State?
No, my dad is not the former Secretary of, not State, Finance, right?
I don't remember.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, I think it was Secretary of Finance. Randy, what is the nerdiest thing you have done this week?
I played a board game where I was Cthulhu's testicle.
Nice. Left or right?
And then I Hang on, let me do the thing with my hands.
right.
Where you make an L. Pretty sure it was the right.
On the character board, it
Mhm.
is the right testicle.
It's
Okay.
the unfathomable one, whichever one that is.
Yeah.
I think right is more unfathomable than the left one.
Randy's nerdiest thing he did this week falls in line with the nerdiest thing I did this week. Randy, did you put that image up on the? Okay, so here is an image from last Saturday when we were celebrating my birthday with friends. We did an escape room tabletop game, escaping the Pharaoh's curse. We were successful with 14 minutes to spare.
Ooh.
A good time was had by all. And then I convinced Randy and our friends to play Annihilageddon with me, which is the tabletop deck building game based on the epic Spell Wars franchise. It is I've mentioned it on the show before. It is incredibly inappropriate. You definitely could not play the game with children. As Randy said, his character was Ball of Cthulhu. And the character card literally just shows Cthulhu's right testicle hanging out of his shorts. And that is the character you play. There's a lot of fun stuff in that game. And we were, what time was it? Like midnight when you got done? Our two of my friends left, Story Love and her husband. And then Randy stayed and finished the game, it's funny. They got up and left and we finished the game like 5 minutes after they walked out the door.
I think at like 8:30, I was like, I probably need to get home. And then
that's right. Yeah, we were done earlier.
And then we continued talking till like I think like 10:40.
Yeah, Randy kept saying, I guess I'll get out of here because we were like, you guys want to play like a quick game of Sequence? Because my mom was kind of wanting to play, and that's the only tabletop game to play a Sequence. And I was like, you guys want to play a quick game of Sequence? And Randy's like, actually, I should probably head out. I don't really have time to do that and get home at a decent hour. And then he stayed and talked for 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So
we started talking about Epic the Musical and whatnot. So
yes. So you did the Midwestern goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Randy, you're bringing up Epic the Musical. Did you see did the internet regale you with the news that Lin-Manuel Miranda, the father of the Hamilton musical and now the primary music creator for Disney, had a lunch meeting with Jorge, the creator of Epic, and that he put on like Instagram that he had a really great lunch meeting with Jorge and things were going well.
No, I didn't see that.
Leading to a spike in theories that the Epic musical may be being created or co-created for the stage by the one, the only Lin-Manuel Miranda. So
I would say if you've listened to like Legendary, it's one that Telemachus sings. It's the Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah.
There's like a little.
It's got some Hamel bones.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So anyway, that is the nerdiest stuff we have done this week. If you are following along in the chat, feel free to list the nerdiest thing you have done this week. We'd be more than happy to talk with you about it. In the meantime, you guys want to talk about some news?
Always.
Maybe.
Hey, Randy, why don't you fire those bullet points at me? All right, welcome to the bullet points. We are talking about some of, not all, of the news in television, or let me do it in the correct order, in comics, anime, television, gaming, and movie news. I will be covering Jen's anime section this week. So it'll just be me talking for a really long time, then Landon a little bit, and then me again. In comic book news,
of the show.
yeah, yes, exactly. In comic book news, in Amazing Spider-Man number 11 coming in September. So they relaunched Amazing Spider-Man last year, but this is the legacy issue. So the actual count of Amazing Spider-Man issues. This will be issue 975, but is 11 of this new series. The series is now going to follow two different Spider-Men. One is going to be the normal Earth-based Spider-Man, and one is going to be a space-based Spider-Man that will be traveling across the galaxy trying to make his way back to Earth. So here we have the cover of issue 11. Let's see. It's that one, yes. We have the cover of issue 11 featuring the new space-based Spider-Man on the right and the classic Spider-Man on the left. There is a question leading into this story. Who is going to be who? Whether these are both Peter Parker in some way, whether this is a new person in the Earth-based Spider-Man, and that's the Peter Parker Spider-Man in the new cosmic Spider-Man costume trying to make his way back to Earth. But he is going to meet some new characters that you can see here in the variant cover. No, not that one. The other one. Right there. In this variant cover, they are introducing a character named Symbi. He is a young symbiote who is going to be Spider-Man's sidekick through this. As you can see, he's a cute little guy. So, of course, comic fans are going to hate this character, which I'm fine with, unless lightning strikes twice and we get another Greg the Land Shark. But I don't see that happening. So this, I'm assuming the cosmic costume Spider-Man is the actual Peter Parker Spider-Man, but we'll see how this goes down. It will not be the first time that we have had two Peter Parker Spider-Man running around at the same time. And then issue number 12 coming to us from writer Joe Kelly and artist John Romita Jr. Features this cover where it is a lot of the alternate reality Spider-Man fighting the Earthbound Peter Parker Spider-Man. So the thing is, and what this image is showing us, is that the classic costume Spider-Man, whoever is in that suit, is no longer being friendly, and he is just being Spider-Man. So he is like hurting people. He's cruel. He's ruthless. So whoever takes over the role of Spider-Man is not the classic with great power comes great responsibility mentality of Spider-Man. It is somebody else wielding the powers.
Wait, where'd you get that from?
So that is issue number 12.
No, I mean like the fact that he's not the normal with great power comes great. Like,
so that is in the synopsis of this story, and the way it's changing from issue 11 is that whoever is in the classic red and blue suit swinging around New York is being way more aggressive, being way less friendly. It's a much more hard-edged version of Spider-Man. So I guess it is possible that Frank Castle has put the suit on, but we'll see.
Yeah. Just from more like of an editing standpoint or production standpoint, it would make sense for the newer Spider-Man, the one going throughout the galaxy trying to get back home, would be Peter Parker, because this is a newer thing. This is a bit more out there. So they would want something that grounds it more to the main story. And saying that it is like the Peter Parker that you know and love would be something that's just a little bit of better foundation to get readers interested.
Yes, and I can agree with that, with the exception of knowing that during the Clone series, everyone's favorite Spider-Man story arc, both Ben Reilly and Peter and Kane all thought they were the real Peter Parker until they learned they were clones and that Peter wasn't. Kempachi in the chat, how's it going this evening? Going well, Kempachi. Glad you were here, and thank you for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. So moving on from there, the Evil Eye movie, the second Don feature film, made it to American theaters starting on June 6th. And in its first opening week, or its opening weekend, it grossed $3 million, which isn't great for an American movie. You know, usually the budget is about 70 times higher than that. But for an anime film, that's pretty great, considering it was made on a $644,000 budget and it grossed $3 million in its opening weekend. It's incredibly successful, and it is beating their first feature, First Encounters, by $2 million on its opening. So the original Don feature, First Encounters, was $1 million opening weekend. Evil Eye grossed $3 million opening weekend. Now, the reason this story isn't as interesting by the numbers as it sounds, First Encounters was season 1, episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Dandadan. So you were being introduced to a new anime in a movie theater, and you had to pay, upwards of $15 a ticket to go see it. And so people obviously weren't as invested in the series. And Evil Eye is the first 3 episodes of season 2. Of course, fans of the first one are going to flock to see the second one. Those numbers just make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it was reported like it was news, like, oh, it beat the first movie. Well, fuck yeah, it beat the first movie. Everybody knew what the series was about after at the end of season 1. And this is also giving us a first look at season 2. And season 1 ended fucking hype. So of course we're excited.
Like a huge cliffhanger too, where
Yes.
it was a really strange ending. And I don't know why they did it, but maybe it was to build hype for this
Yes.
movie.
Now, I wasn't there opening day, so I wasn't a contributor to that $3 million opening weekend, but I did go see it yesterday. It does pick up from the cliffhanger at the end of season 2, and it's really good. I'm excited to see where the series goes from here because it basically added a new character, and the new character is really cool, and I'm really excited to see what they do with it going forward. And the current earnings for the film as of now, which is 2 weeks after opening, it is at $5 million total. So incredibly successful. They've more than made their money back on the film, and that's just in the U.S. So congratulations, Don to Don. I hope that series continues going for a while at least, because I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Let's see. In TV news, so we reported that there was a new Steven Universe series coming to Cartoon Network, or coming to Adult Swim, right? No, HBO Max. Coming to HBO Max, and it is going to be called Lars of the Stars. Well, they have revealed that the show is going to be a full series. It will not be a special or anything like that. It's going to run multiple seasons. It is going to come back into the world of Steven Universe following Steven Universe Futures, and it is going to tell lore and stories about the universe that we have wanted to know for a while, such as where did the gem homeworld come from, who created it, what are its origins, how did the gems come to be. Apparently, questions like that will be answered within the series while moving the needle for the story of Steven Universe, the crystal gems, and all of the cast from the original series.
All right, interesting. I never finished Steven Universe myself. I did like it. It just sort of fell off for some reason. I am good to see that something from HBO, I'm glad to see some animated show from HBO is still getting some love. Recently there have been plenty of shows getting axed from HBO Max, which is a shame, but it's how it goes. So maybe if this does well, the needle will move a bit more towards animation, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, knowing that we're going to getting an Adult Swim version of regular show, we're also getting a new Steven Universe franchise or series. And I believe there's another former Cartoon Network series that's getting a reboot. I think I saw an article about it, but it's not coming to mind just yet. But there's another one. Amazing World of Gumball is about to get to get a revival, and it's coming back as well. So I think they understand that there's money in that, and that it needs a home. And while Cartoon Network has traditionally been a good home for that, I think finding a streaming home for those things is vitally important as well with new episodes.
It just took nostalgia bait for them to care about these shows again.
Yeah, of course. That being said, Landon, what do you have in gaming news?
All right. So, first off, in gaming news, RuneScape has apparently canceled their Pride event, and players are not happy about this. The CEO has claimed that they will not be having their Pride event for this year due to political backlash that has been happening, even straight up just dropping because of the Trump administration. And the developers aren't happy about it because they were always down to do the Pride event, and apparently all their assets and everything for this year were either already completed or mostly completed. And players are also not happy about this because they want the Pride event.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And also you're looking at a situation where you're talking about like artists, directors, like people in the creative media. There's a lot of gay people there. That's kind of what keeps those wheels moving. That's where all the creatives go. It's weird that, that if you're, artistic communities tend to be accepting communities of people expressing themselves in ways that not you don't necessarily find in every church. So yeah, it's frustrating. I cannot believe that in the face of how much people I'm not gonna comment on the thing Billy just put, but you guys can totally read that. But the in the face of this, where we have seen so many people standing up and saying like, fuck you, we're going to do the things we do and you're not going to scare us out of it. Then you see something as not even remotely relevant as RuneScape and their company being like, well, we don't want to draw too much attention to ourselves. Like, no press is bad press. Like, do it anyway. God forbid somebody set your building on fire. You'll sell 1 billion more copies of RuneScape.
Yeah, and they do it. I mean, like, it's never anything like major either, because like they have events for like Easter and Christmas and Halloween where it's just like a cosmetic thing. And this year, like I think they do like a weekly update, like newsletter. And they did say like, oh, go to this character in the game and get your Pride merch, but like there's nothing new added, so it's not like they took stuff out. But like, yeah, if they had already like started developing it and then just like chose not to put it in, that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
I will say our good friend
like
Billy Rhodes in the chat for the first time in several weeks. Billy, we are glad to have you back. Number one with a bullet. Absolutely. Landon, what else you got in gaming news?
Honestly, it's not so much news. This is more of just like a minor update from the story I talked about last week about the GameStop that accidentally stapled receipts to switch to screens. So a GameStop in Staten Island had accidentally were stapling receipts to boxes of Switch 2s, something as like a midnight release thing. You have the receipt on the box, you just take it and go. You don't have to do much fuss about it. But they were not using tape, they were using staples. And due to an error from Nintendo's design of the box, the Switch 2 screens were right up on the edge, facing outward. So the staples went right through and into the screens. However, GameStop honestly cleaned up the issue really quickly. Like they gave everybody replacements, and like all the people that had issues with the staples in their Switches were like, yeah, they were fast. They got my replacement back. I honestly I wish it never happened in the first place, but I can't be mad with the response. And GameStop has decided to go on with this issue and decided to make just a little bitty ad to go along with everything. Randy, if you would. Yep, I did take this from Reddit, but they've decided to just roll with it and make it part of their new ad campaign. Staples not included.
Which is so funny. Just really great way to embrace, what was kind of an oopsie, and make make light of it. But like if they had not taken it seriously, if they had been like, sucks to be you, and then they put that out, it'd be like, wow, what a bunch of fucking assholes. But yeah, they handled it, and then they made a little joke about themselves. I think that's great.
Yeah, they dealt with this as best as possible. The only way it could have been better is if it never happened at all, but still.
Yeah. Justin Quick in the chat said, hi, Danny. What up, Justin? Glad you were here. Yeah, and then, like, when you think about it, like, GameStop was really circling the drain just a couple of years ago before the whole Robinhood investor
meme
thing
stock
happened. What was it?
Like meme stocks, like just
yeah.
Yes.
When GameStop was saved through stock trading, and got their legs back underneath them. And then, the bad press from this could have been another very scary thing for them, but thankfully they have a great PR team. And they're gonna keep on rolling, which is great.
Yeah.
I support it. Moving along into movie news, Thunderbolts is going to be released on July 29th in the year of our Lord 2025 for you to bring home. It will be released on streaming services, Vudu and Amazon Prime, July 1st. But if you want a physical copy, they're dropping those July 29th. And we've gotten the first look at the Steelbook coming out from that. So here for the collectors of such things, and who doesn't love a good Steelbook? Here's the first images we have received of it. So that will be the internal art for the book that comes with it. And then also a bit further up there, we have the actual cross section of what it is going to look like whenever you get it to bring it home. It, of course, has the new Avengers on it instead of Thunderbolts. But you do see Thunderbolts on the spine. It's got some great artwork in it. And it is going to come with some special features, which I will list in a second because my computer...
There's a character that is absent in this.
Yeah, there is
so
a character
strange.
that's absent from that.
She's in the trailers.
Yeah, you will notice that in the new Avengers lineup, Taskmaster is not present. And yeah,
on the regular edition though. Or wait, yeah, there they are.
Yep, yeah, she does appear
okay.
on the not. Let's see, where was that? Okay, so the special features on it, I'm just gonna read them off. So there's deleted scenes, and it's only listing 2 deleted scenes, so that's great. A whole lot of content there. Assembling a Team to Remember is interviews with the cast. Around the World and Back Again, which is a location scouting. All About Bob Sentry and the Void is a deep dive into the making of 3 different characters. The gag reel, who doesn't love a nice outtake reel? And then the director's audio commentary. You can watch the movie with the commentary track from director Jeff Schreier. So anyway, you can pick that up at all of your retailers and Amazon and bring it home on the 29th. So that will do it for the news. I hope this news didn't just graze you. This has been the Bullet Point. Welcome back to the show. So we are introducing, we're reworking the name for our review segment. So we are changing the name. Well, we never named it. I just said, here, I'm going to review a thing. But we're going to start calling it 3 Cuts. I am basing this around the idea that you're going to get 3 pieces of breakdown for me: the good of the thing, the bad of the thing, and then the aftermath, which is what we're left with between those 2 things. So this week we are reviewing the live action How to Train Your Dragon. Anyone else get a chance to watch this?
I did not.
You did not?
No.
Okay, so we will dive into this with the good first. So the good, it is a fun movie. It is a shot-for-shot remake with only added scenes from the original. They didn't take anything away from the original, really. It keeps a lot of the heart of the original How to Train Your Dragon. The performances are good. Gerard Butler coming back to play the live-action Stoic the Vast after being his voice actor in the original animated is incredible. I really enjoyed just the, and I don't even think it's been long because this movie came out in 2010. I don't think it's been long enough to just be like a nostalgia thing, but I guess it has been 15 years. But just the fact that the same actor came back to do the live action that did the animated, I don't know why, but that tickles something in my brain that just makes me very happy. The dragons look great. The CG's awesome. They were definitely on point with it, which is great because the original How to Train Your Dragon was a visual tour de force for the time. And I think even this much later that CGI stands up. I think it's still very enjoyable. So no complaints there. I think the action is good. The cinematography is good. They didn't actually do so like some of the scenes like Hiccup riding Toothless the first time. In the original, you kind of do it from Hiccup's perspective because they sold it. They also did it as a 3D film, and in that segment, you actually get to like be on the flight with the dragon. They didn't do that with this one. You actually see it from a third perspective, seeing Hiccup like flying by you on Toothless, which I thought was cool. It was cool to get a second perspective on that initial flight. Toothless is as cute, if not more cute, than he was in the original. They made some decisions where in the animated he had certain facial expressions. There was no way to communicate those things on a dragon that looked more realistic. So they changed it to where he tilts his head or makes more like animalistic gestures that we would normally see on like cats and dogs than you would see on, a cartoon character. I thought that was a great choice. And I hate to say this because there has been such a backlash to the trend of turning animated stuff into live action stuff, and I have jumped on that bandwagon a number of times with some of the properties that are out there. And this seeing the overall hot takes on the internet about this one after watching it, I have had to revisit that thinking about the animated to live action funnel that we are currently in. So, I'll go back to talking about Disney a little bit. There has been such hate for the idea that Disney is taking these children's properties and doing shameless cash grabs. Instead of making new things, they are taking old things and remaking them in live action. And people, the subsequent what's left, Billy's ahead of me on this, but the subsequent what is left is something that is somewhat lacking compared to the magic of the original animated. And people are like, why don't you try something new? Why don't you try something different? I will say it is new and different to make a transition from the safe choice of continuing to make new animated properties to take and update your animated property into a live action. That is new. That is different. It's something they were not previously doing. Is it all that artistic? No. But is it as bad as people act like it is? When you look at like Broadway, and you know that they turn Lion King into a Broadway musical that has done incredibly well. And you think like School of Rock got turned into a Broadway musical that did incredibly well. And there's a litany of them just where they took a live action movie and they turned it into a Broadway property and it did really, really well. I don't think that there isn't a market at all for taking these animated movies and also doing a live action rendition of them that updates the story, the characters, and gives live action actors a chance to play out these characters without just being voice actors. I don't think it's inherently bad. I think that it falls in line with the idea that comic books are for kids, and so if you like them, you're immature. I think it falls in line with the fact that video games are for kids, so if you really like them, then you must be immature. I think that when you are looking at a property or a thing being made, I think you just have to consider that this is a different medium and you are going to get both good and bad attempts at it. And to say all of this, to come back around and say that everybody's saying this wasn't needed, and I really enjoyed it. I'm a fan of How to Train Your Dragon, the animateds, the movies. I didn't read the book series. I forgive me if I did not. The reason I don't think I would enjoy the book series is because Toothless is much smaller and Hiccup doesn't ride him in the books, which is my favorite part of How to Train Your Dragon. So I think this was really good. I think Billy, I agree. Voice actors have been catching too many breaks lately. It's time for the real actors to be on top. No, Billy, I think that there is a world where both can exist and we don't have to be mad at one because the other is around. I think that we can appreciate both voice actors creating animated works and then also having a live action version and not feeling like we have somehow been cheated out of the animated version because we have both. I think there's a world where we can enjoy both and not be so cynical about it.
Yeah. Well, Danny, a couple of things. First and foremost, I feel as though you're too quick to turn back and be like, oh no, the live actions versions of things are now great and stuff. Like the trend, as Billy has said, the trend has been bad. If you get one good one out of every 10, that doesn't make the trend good.
But when you say that the trend has been bad, what are you referring to? Could you list the ones that have been bad?
There's The Lion King, there's Beauty and the Beast, there's Mulan. I'm blanking on more, but those are three right off the top of my head.
So so here's the thing. Like, I watched Beauty and the Beast. I don't remember there being an like outcry of hate for it. I thought it was fairly enjoyed by people. You know, we had Ewan McGregor voicing Lumiere. We had, some great live action actors in it. Gaston was great. And it felt to me like when I was watching that I wasn't watching somebody trying to capture the original's magic and just capitalize on it. It felt like they were just doing like a Broadway rendition and changing it up and doing like their version of it. Like, I don't feel like it was ever intended to be exactly the animated version. So like, I will say I didn't watch Mulan. I did not. I just personally, I love Mulan as an animated film, and I just didn't feel like it was worth my time to watch the live action. So yeah, I agree with that. I haven't watched The Lion King. I didn't watch Lilo and Stitch. You know, there's a lot of hate for the Lilo and Stitch remake.
I was gonna make a joke, something about Hiccup leaving Burke at the end of it to study marine biology on the mainland.
Yeah. But I do think that there is a realm where these things aren't just out of the box, like immediately announced, like, oh, they're doing a live action of another cartoon thing. I hate it. Because I've been watching a lot of things, a lot of videos from content creators and film critics that I enjoy normally, and every single one of them right off the bat is like, the first one, the original was great. This is shit. It's just not good. It has none of the heart. It has none of the feelings. It's obviously a shameless cash grab by Universal to advertise their new park that's coming out. And I'm watching the like interviews with the cast and the production team and the original director coming back to do this one, and how much they love the property and how much they put into making this and how much they enjoyed being back in the world. And like, it just seems like the love is definitely there. Like, it isn't just this vapid, heartless remake where they were just like, oh yeah, I'll take another paycheck for it. Like, it seems like they genuinely wanted to make a good live action version of it. They did something that nobody else is doing, which is to just tell the same fucking story, but with live actors. So what we got was an opportunity for different actors to give us their rendition of the characters from the movie, which I thought was what we got in the Hiccup character. We got a very different Hiccup from the Jay Baruchel version. And I think it's good. I think that the difference isn't bad inherently because it's different. I think it's good and different.
Hey, maybe this one is good. I have not seen it. But and maybe come 10 years, 20 years from now, there'll be a trend of live action remakes of animated properties, and they're all just as good as this, and they're all wonderful. And we'll look back on this time, those early movies, and think, man, they really didn't have it down. They didn't know quite how to do this yet. They paved the way for this, but man, those were bad. Maybe that time will come. But as of right now, I can't say the trend as a whole has been good.
And I can respect that is your opinion. What I cannot respect is when it seems like the internet is like, here's what your opinion should be, and that is people's stock opinion without putting any attempt to even give this thing a chance. And that seems to be the case from everyone I see reviewing it. Like, you haven't even seen it yet, and you're defending that it's probably bad because you know that's the response you're supposed to have. And I'm not saying that you're like that all the time, but I'm saying that is what the people are like. It's like review bombing something to make it fucking fail because you didn't like it. Like that is what this is experience is feels like to me, because people that I normally like, I watch them and I'm like, yeah, they usually have a pretty interesting take on things, or like immediately out of the box, like this sucked. And that just is not the case. This movie does not suck. It's good. Some of it was like, the added scenes between Hiccup and I'm drawing the blank on her name. Astrid. Between Hiccup and Astrid are just to like make it more like emotionally engaging that the two of them are going through this whole thing about her wanting to be the chief and him wanting to like live up to his dad's expectations. And it was like, well, that's just too much, because the original one did it without having to add all of that. And it's like, okay. And like they took a different take, but they left the spirit of it in there. And I will say that something that happened to me watching this remake that did not happen watching the original, I fucking cried twice watching this movie. Like the ending got me so fucking bad that I fucking started crying, and I'm sitting there like, why the fuck am I crying? This is a funny kids movie. Why the fuck? And then again, like 5 minutes later, and I was like, what? I knew what was going to happen. Why did this do this to me? And I think just it was so much more. There was so much more emotional connection by the end of this one compared to the original. That doesn't mean that I don't love the original, but I did hear like a criticism that like this, I forget his name, the actor that plays Hiccup, his portrayal wasn't as quippy as Jay Baruchel's portrayal, and it was more sad and more connected to his emotions. And in some way that was worse because it wasn't as fun to watch as the original. But this is like a live person doing live reactions to live shit happening around him, and he's not going to be quippy like a fucking cartoon character. That just doesn't make sense. Like no director is going to be like, no. Be more lighthearted about the fact that you rip part of this dragon's tail off and it's trapped in a fucking thing and it can't get out and you're scared to death to face it. Like that's just not the way things happen in real life. And I think they did a really good job of capturing that fun while making it more realistic. And I don't have any complaint about that.
I mean, I will say different tones. It is important to get the tone of a scene right. And I'm agreeing with you on this. Like what is comedic in a certain light with like certain types of editing choices can be horrifying from a different perspective and with different acting choices and everything. So I agree with you that they took a different take with that. Then you shouldn't necessarily just disregard it just because it's a different perspective on how a character should act in that situation.
Right. And I guess the only reason I'm making that point is that I'm seeing these hot takes from people that normally would see something like that in a movie and be like, oh my God, you could really see the emotions and the feelings and the character in this. In their review of this, they're like, oh no, it wasn't as emotionless and quippy as the original, and that's a bad thing. And it's like, do you hear yourself? Like you're like, oh, this is the thing I'm supposed to say because people are going to expect this out of me. Here's my honest review, and it's not honest. Like it's obviously colored by the perception of what they should say about this thing, just because the live action remakes have been so lambasted. And do I think that's great? Do I not by any measure do I think this is great as a decision, but I do also think saying that they're unimaginative and that they are not taking any risks by making live action versions of the animated, that's dumb. They're basically printing money every time they put out a new animated property, and then taking a risk as to do a live action, especially knowing the backlash that they've had. I really think it's taking the risk associated with that out of context and just being like, oh, they just want money. Well, of course they just want money. It's a fucking company. They fucking thrive on money. That's never a good condemnation of whether they're making a thing or why they're making a thing or the reason they're making a thing. There's almost no company out there that's like, we're only making this for artistic value. We don't want any money. That's just not a thing. I will say it was, they didn't try to reinvent the wheel. Some people are upset about that. I'm not. I really enjoyed the live action. I enjoyed seeing the updated CGI on the dragons and seeing them interact with real people in real environments. I thought that was a lot of fun. Had a great time with it. Billy said, but Disney is pausing their live action stuff because of the backlash. So how risky can it be? Obviously, the risk to reward metric there has shown them that the reward was not high enough for the risk. That doesn't make it not a risk. That's definitely still in the formula.
We also have to take into account, like, this is DreamWorks. This isn't Disney.
It's
and this
Universal.
is their first like go at a remake. And honestly, like, you know, like Lion King, like they say the live action, it's still CGI. It's just made to look realistic. So like if you count that one, but like this is the perfect movie to be live action, I think, or like attempt at it, because it's dragons, which we've seen, you know, Game of Thrones and all that, like just dragons have been a thing in like live action, and then they're human characters. And I think that's where this movie can be good. And then also like DreamWorks has a pretty good track record of like good movies with good stories. And that's another thing where like a lot of the Disney remakes, like I'll say like Mulan was probably like the best story, and then like maybe Aladdin, but like Beauty and the Beast, not that it's a bad story, I love that movie, but they're made for kids. Like, you know, oh, the Beast, like Shrek is like a subversion of the genre, that like she doesn't turn back into a human, like she turns into an ogre at the end, because like true love, like looks don't matter. Where like the biggest problem with like Beauty and the Beast is like, oh, he just turns into a dude at the end, and like now he's pretty, so they get to be happy together. And like How to Train Your Dragon was from like 2010, and it has a much more like modern storytelling that I think is made to be transferable to live action, where like older Disney movies aren't. Like Snow White, like the Snow White from the 1930s was not like, didn't have the themes and like motifs and like all the things that like modern storytelling have. So when they made it into a live action, they had to like shoehorn that stuff in and then like change the story. Where, you know, How to Train Your Dragon has, even if it's a kids movie, it still has that like drama to it. And I think that's where like this movie can thrive. Like I haven't seen it, don't know if it's like a 10 out of 10 or, you know, like world changing.
We'll get there.
But yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think if anything is to attempt this, like it's this. It's just like one of those things like Grant Morrison, where he doesn't like any of his comic book adaptations being made, or like he doesn't go see them because he's like, I would have made it a movie if I wanted it to be a movie. So it's like they would have made it live action if they wanted it live action, which I guess that's not true with movies, because like it's harder to make a live action probably than a animated movie, especially like sequels and stuff. but yeah, so that's I think that's my take on it, is like we can give them a shot. Not that anybody needs to like defend DreamWorks, but like Puss in Boots, that was a weird one to do, like the second Puss in Boots movie. And it was amazing. It was still animated, obviously, but nobody expected that movie to be as good as it was.
So I just refuse to, like, you guys all know, like if I'm reviewing something and I'm feeling like they made a really dumb or selfish choice in the production of whatever they're making, I'll get on my soapbox. But I try my best not to just be cynical, because that's what people are being. Like if people are just like, oh, I hate it. Like I try not to let that just shade my opinions. Like
if they made a live action Kung Fu Panda, that's where I'm going to start yelling cash grab right off the jump. Yeah. That's like, why?
Even if Jack Black was in the panda costume.
Well, like, why though?
But anyway, so that's the good from my perspective. The bad, I don't have a lot when it comes to the bad. One of the things is Nick Frost playing Gobber. Craig Ferguson's Gobber is incredible in the original How to Train Your Dragon movie, and somehow Nick Frost trying to fill those shoes is not good. Like he is not, he didn't have it. The comedic timing seemed off. He didn't seem to really be buying into his lines, which, I mean, I think Nick Frost is a fine actor. I enjoy him in the Cornetto trilogy and some of the other things I've seen him in. You know, he showed up as Santa Claus in Doctor Who. I thought that was good. but somehow just like he wasn't good as Gobber. Like every scene he's in kind of takes me out of the movie because he doesn't seem to be invested in what he's playing. The some of the and I will say also it seemed like Gerard Butler's take on Stoic the Vast this time around didn't have as much emotional heft as it did in the animated. So I would say my biggest complaints is like kind of the adult characters in it. It didn't seem like any of the actors were really invested in the characters the way that the younger actors were, because all of the younger actors seem very believable, very invested in their characters, very much a part of the world, and all of the adults in the movie kind of seem like they're playing pretend, which is, literally what acting is, but we're not supposed to be aware that that's the case, and that's kind of how it felt the entire movie. A lot of those performances really uninvest you from the story.
I'm looking at screenshots of them. The costuming is like pretty close, I think, to the
Yeah.
animated, but it does not transfer well. Which
Yeah.
is one of the it's one of the marks, like, against transferring live action, because like, I mean, the shapes of some of the characters alone are
Right.
pretty whack.
Well,
Like,
like one of the things, like Hiccup is supposed to be kind of small for a Viking, right? He's like,
do they age them up?
he-
Because he looks like almost a full adult.
he's definitely older than he is in the animated, just by looking at him. But Hiccup's supposed to be small, and like Gobber and Stoic are both supposed to be fucking like giant compared to him. Well, I think he's as tall, if not taller than Nick Frost Gobber, and he's very close in height to Gerard Butler's Stoic the Vast. And it does kind of take some of that like intimidation factor of how big they are compared to him out of it, because he's like standing there talking to Gobber, and they're like almost eye to eye, and I do think Hiccup's just a little bit taller, and it's like they didn't have like a box around anybody could stand on for that shot. Like
Get
they
that
needed
man
him
an
eye to
apple
eye for it.
box.
No Gimmicks podcast in the chat said, "What up, guys?" And then Joseph Demon Stewart, my older brother and future co-host of the show, he will be joining us when he gets back from his cruise. In the chat said it wasn't bad in live action, worth watching, and he said that Nick Frost's performance was too dry. But yeah, so that's really the bad for me. That's kind of it. It was the loss of the like magic of the world when the adult actors come into the scenes, which there isn't a ton of it. The movie very much centers around Hiccup and Toothless' relationship. I really liked the new Toothless. No complaints there. They did a really good job. I know they had to find some like happy medium between like realistic eye size and the eye size from the animated. And I thought they settled on a good size. The dragons all look fucking great, dude. They were so cool. And so the aftermath slash or cut 3. I don't think this improves How to Train Your Dragon at all. I don't think this moves the needle in the quality of the story, or that if you're a fan of, or if you weren't a fan of How to Train Your Dragon whenever the animated released in 2010, you're probably not going to be a fan of the live action. If you are a fan of the animated and you're not looking for it to change the live action, you're probably going to be okay. If you personally would prefer to watch the original and you don't care to watch it in another format, you're probably not going to give a shit about this. But I will say that in the world where they are making live action remakes of beloved animated properties, this seems to be the best one. I will honestly say this one seems to have the most heart. It seems like the people that wanted to make this happen and have an opportunity to do it with live action actors wanted to do this because they thought it would be a cool idea, and I think they pulled it off. So I would say I don't think I'm going to do a point system for the ratings on this. I would say it's a good ride. and it's worth checking out. Whether you do that by seeing it in the theater or you wait till it's on streaming service, I think it's definitely one of those that, like, if you happen to be walking through the house and somebody had like TNT on, it just happened to be playing, it's worth sitting and watching. As far as like hunting it down or paying money for it, I don't know that it's really worth that. So,
Is it use the same score?
it uses a very similar score. The
So that's what I hear a
original,
lot of people like really love the score. to
yes,
it.
the
Of the original, I mean. But
composer for the original came back to do this
Mhm.
one, and so they kept some of the original score, and there's new music added as well. So it's a very simple case of like they didn't touch the original, they just added to it.
Mhm. My only argument, like people are against live action remakes, is like we do already have it, and like not that this is like bad or you shouldn't because it's their money, but it would be cool to like put that energy towards like if you're taking it because they want a property that they know is successful, because like this is going to make money regardless of if people don't like people were up in arms about Lilo and Stitch, and I'm pretty sure it did pretty well.
Mhm.
So it's like it would be cool to like take that risk on a new IP rather than do the remake.
Absolutely.
But like I said, I can't
So
fault
here's
this,
my
but
question.
I don't know.
If they were doing that,
Mhm.
would you know?
Exactly. That's the whole thing. You can't know. So it's like
They very much are doing both.
Mhm.
They are still putting out original animated
Yeah.
Disney movies. They have another one dropping, or has just dropped, that is about to come out, that I couldn't tell you the name of. I just know it exists. And they're doing live action remakes. Like,
Mhm. Which, like I said, I do want to see like where they go with DreamWorks if they're doing live act. Which I don't know what other live action remakes they're going to do with their properties that I'm looking at, because I don't think Shrek would work as live action, and they're doing
no,
a
I think a Shrek
5.
live action would be a bad idea. Like, if they
Yeah,
did that, no support.
because a
I
lot
think
of
that's terrible.
their stuff is animal
But there's
characters.
a Shrek Broadway musical. Like, you
Mhm.
can see Shrek on Broadway. You can go see Beetlejuice on Broadway. I don't hear anybody complaining that Broadway is adapting movies to Broadway instead of adapting new Broadway productions. Like,
Broadway
people are like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited! Beetlejuice is so good!" Like,
Broadway has a
Well-
fun charm to it that makes it like musical too. so-
And also, Broadway isn't necessarily for the masses. It's for the people who can afford Broadway tickets. Because that shit's expensive, dog.
I know, I've been.
I lied. I'll take a live action Rise of the Guardians.
I'm just saying.
No, I'm just looking at all
it
their
is-
things
It
and like
is
see what they
very,
even could do.
very easy to fall into a trap of being overly cynical about somebody doing something different from what you expect. And I think that while on the surface, the idea of turning Lion King into a live action movie where they just CGI a bunch of fucking lions seems pretty stupid to me. I don't think there isn't a property out there that it makes sense for. The live action Ninja Turtles, for one example, is incredible. I love the live action Ninja Turtles movie, and that was a live action iteration of the cartoon. I don't think it's inherently bad that people are making live action versions of things, and it's been happening for forever. Like, had they given Transformers to somebody else besides Michael Bay, they probably would have won a fucking Oscar. I don't know. It's like, I just, I don't want to be too cynical about this because I really enjoyed it, and it would be so easy for me to just get on here and be like, it's shit. They shouldn't be making these live actions, and that just wouldn't be honest. I don't think it's honest. I think that, to be honest, there is it depends on the medium. It depends on the person making it. If they, you can turn anything into art. Literally anything.
And like it does help reach people too, because like because like my parents are ones who like a cartoon. They're like, I don't want to watch a cartoon. But like my dad found and watched The Last Airbender or Avatar, the live action season 1 Avatar, and he enjoyed it. And I was like, yep, you should watch the animated version next. And he hasn't.
Yes.
But it's like, if that's the way people can, which I mean, like, you're catering to people's like hangups on animation, which they should get over. Animation's awesome. But it does, I think, reach more people. So they're like, this property is successful.
Yep.
Like one of maybe our most successful, well, no, probably not top 3 probably from DreamWorks.
Yeah.
And the live action can, revitalize it. Maybe it'll lead to
it wasn't
another
needed for
animated
Avatar.
sequel.
Definitely wasn't needed for Avatar, but also, I mean,
and then like
it's
that's
fine.
one where it's like, oh, they're real character. Like Avatar's another one where it's like, oh, they're real characters, like real proportioned like characters, and like there are
They have 5
mixtures-
fingers and stuff like that.
well, just like mixtures of like animal creatures, but like you can work around that. But then like the movement is weird, which like dragons do a lot of the movement in this, where it's not like you don't have like humans floating in the air like Avatar, where it's just they need to pick carefully what they do because some things just don't transfer, like the humor of Hiccup, like you were saying, like the quippiness. Like you're not going to be quippy whenever you're a real person facing a quote unquote real dragon,
right?
Where and like if you're both
when you're looking at the scene,
if you're both pixels and polygons, like you can be funny.
When you're looking at the scene where he first meets Toothless, like he's not certain he's going to live through that interaction because his whole life coming face to face with the dragon means death.
Does Toothless like do the little waddle away like
he
does
yes,
he?
Absolutely.
Like, okay, damn it. Now I might have to watch it.
It's adorable. But anyway, Joey says they have to shoot their shot, and Billy said, I've read complaints about the Willy Wonka play, and I remember Spider-Man being a huge mess. Yes, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark is a legendarily terrible production that was funded, and they didn't have the proper safety measures in place, and people just kept getting hurt.
So you got 2 examples, Billy, both of which are more so about the quality of the product and not the fact that the product itself was turned into musicals.
Yeah, valid. Okay, so that is the 3 cuts. I haven't come up with a really smart transition for the next segment, but next up, we are going to be talking about some of our mindless speculation about the upcoming Superman film on Theory X. This would be where lots of stuff would happen. Welcome to Theory
Professor
X.
Utonium would hit
this
the
week
bottle
we
like
are
Chemical
discussing
X.
Superman movie that is about to come out with James Gunn. And some of our mindless speculation around it. Now, the intent of this is just to have a good time, have some fun, and have a discussion. If you are taking it too seriously and you want to fight about it, my address is, I'm just kidding. Most of you know where I live anyway. And I'm always down to fight. Anyway, that being said, we are talking about the Superman movie, and I have a hot take, guys. Are you prepared to hear it?
I'm ready to hear your hot take of a theory.
I got my dukes up.
Okay, Randy, can you put up that image from the movie of Superman and Ultraman? It is up one, right there. Go ahead and put that on the screen. So this 2 Supermans, so left, yeah. So Superman's left is the character of Ultraman. Now, I don't believe to this point he has been officially referred to as Ultraman in any of the subsequent media. I don't think there's been like a Lego leak where they call him Ultraman. I don't think there's been any of that. And I think that people's assumption that this is Ultraman is obviously based on the fact that he has a big ass U on his chest. Just like the crime syndicate evil version of Superman from one of the other Earths who is called Ultraman. Ultraman in the Crime Syndicate universe is powered by kryptonite. So as opposed to kryptonite being his weakness, he's the reverse of Superman. Kryptonite gives him his power. The sun causes his weakness. And so I think this is a red herring. I think the U on his chest is a red herring. I think it is meant to lead us to believe that that is going to be an alternate reality or an alternate version of Superman, i.e. Ultraman, or like they have done in some of the Superman media, where it is a clone of Superman that turns out to be Bizarro. Bizarro, historically, the white-skinned version of Superman, also the reverse to Superman, where he his power. Let's see. I think he's still powered by the sun. I might be wrong about that. but Bizarro comes from another world called Bizarro World. The Earth is a cube. He breathes fire and shoots ice lasers out of his eyes instead of the way Superman does it. And obviously he talks differently, and he has white skin, and he's not inherently good, or what he thinks of as good is not good. I don't think it is either one of those things. I think that for better or for worse, James Gunn might be pulling a page out of Zack Snyder's book. And I think that this evil version of Superman may be leading to another character. So if you remember from the Snyderverse, we got General Zod in Man of Steel. And then Superman broke his neck. As everybody knows, that's what Superman does whenever he can't defeat an enemy. He just breaks their neck. He does that so much in the comics. It's crazy. But that led to Justice League, where Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, where they resurrected Zod, and the resurrected version of Zod turned into another DC villain called Doomsday. So I do think that this Ultraman that we have in the image actually matches up pretty strongly to the very first appearance of Doomsday. Randy, will you put up that the furthest up image right under my swollen face? There you go. That one. So this is what Doomsday looked like when he first appeared in the pages of Superman. You will notice he is wearing a full body suit. He had broken out of a containment space underground, and he was in a full body suit. He's wrapped in these metal things, and those had his arms captured, and he got one free, and the other one is captured. But if you look at the lenses on the Doomsday costume, and then look at the lenses on the Ultraman costume, and again, and now come down to that next image under that one. Here was another. Yes, this is the one arm released Doomsday killing a bird and you can see the round lenses, the round eyes, red lenses of Doomsday. If you will go down to the bottom one,
there's a distinct lack of the letter U on it.
There is a noticeable lack of the letter U. Go down to the very bottom image there, that one. So also, if you don't remember, when Doomsday first attacked, one of the very first heroes that went toe-to-toe with Doomsday is Guy Gardner. That's Guy Gardner in Doomsday's hand right there. Guess who else is in the Superman movie that James Gunn is producing? That's right, Guy Gardner. And if you guys remember, Doomsday almost fucking kills Guy Gardner in this interaction. He leaves him comatose. Like, he almost dies because Guy is like being mouthy, and he thinks his Green Lantern ring is going to save him, and he's coming up to Doomsday, and he doesn't realize that he's dealing with somebody that is as strong as Superman, who does not give a shit. So I think based on these images, based on my memory of how this story went, and based on the fact that I think James Gunn is doing a huge red herring and misdirect for the character that is beating up Superman in these scenes, and does leave him with broken ribs, and Superman has to run away and be saved by Krypto, and that whole scene that we've seen in the trailers. I think that's Doomsday. I don't think for a second that's an evil version of Superman. What do you guys think?
I think your theory might hold some water. Like, we've seen crazier rug pulls and turns in superhero media before. Some better, some worse. I.e., the first time we got Doomsday in the last Batman v Superman.
Yeah, that was really bad.
Yeah. However, this could also just be a standard. It could still be Ultraman. You know, that full body suit. Less so to be an homage or a copy of the original version of Doomsday, but more so because he needs protection from the sun. Like, if he's exposed to sun, he loses his power. So it could just be that you need goggles and a full body suit in order for that to make any sort of sense for him to go toe to toe with Superman.
It could also be that they don't want to body double David Cornsweet for every scene. So they just find a guy who kind of is the same size as him and put him in a suit where you can't see his face or his hair or his body. And that works. He's also easier to CGI because there's no real, it's really easy to blur his shape when he's moving. You don't lose the human shape. You can see from the image, they're basically the same size. So that makes sense. But I will say, I think that's easy. I think they could have done that other ways. I think the fact that the whole body cover with the goggles is so reminiscent of the Doomsday character. It leads me to believe that there's more to it than that. And I also haven't really seen anybody talking about that. The U has led people to pretty much universally agree that this is going to be an evil version of Superman, i.e. Ultraman.
It could also be that they're going to have the full bodysuit so that they can play it for not necessarily shock for the audience, but shock for Superman. That he ends up like ripping off like the mask or something in the middle of a fight and see an evil version of himself. I mean, in other parts of the movie, we see the crowds turn on him, the populace turn on him, throw stuff at him, and it could be because of like the fears of him eventually turning and going after them instead. And if he sees an evil version of himself, if there is an evil version of himself going around ruining his good name, this could be how they reveal it, that it's an evil Superman from another universe doing this.
It could be. Do you think that with the weight of what they've gotten with the the multiverse of for the MCU not going well, the fact that the end of the Snyder cut played very heavily on alternate universes, do you think that James Gunn, right off the bat with his brand new shiny DCU, is going to also jump multiverse like right off the bat? Or do
Well,
you think that those failures would keep him away from them?
they may not be thinking old DCEU, but they might be thinking a little bit of Into the Spider-Verse, because we
That's
do
valid.
see lots of copies of Spider-Man and people love all the different Spider-Man.
That's valid. I can get behind that. Landon, did you have a crazy fan theory you'd like to talk about?
Yes. I will say, this is more of a prediction than a full-on theory, but hear me out on this. And Randy, I'm not going to ask you to put these up in any specific order. I'm not going to tell you when to put them up. Just put them up when you feel like, all right?
Okay.
So, up to the point, since this movie has been announced, there has been a swell I like to call classic internet nerddom. That anytime they see something new or something they're not used to, they lash out against it. And over the past, gosh, it feels like it's been a decade already. We have been seeing a lot of darker, edgier takes on Superman, from like the Zack Snyder universe to the plethora of what if Superman but evil tropes with Homelander, Omni-Man, Injustice. And I think that what we are going to see as we in this new movie is going to be a little just a milk toast comment about that. Like somebody's going to be fighting Superman and he's going to say, and the enemy's going to be like, you're not so intimidating with all those bright colors. And he's going to say like the mildest of comebacks, something like, yeah, I'm here to inspire hope. Beating up bad guys is second to that. And it's not going to be anything. It's going to be minor. It's going to be unimportant. But there is going to be a massive backlash at that one line from all the people who have been complaining that this Superman looks too kiddish, that this Superman looks too bright and colorful, that this Superman is not the dark and gritty, realistic Superman that they've all been wanting. Yeah, like injecting some touchy-feely weakness into Superman. Superman is tough, leave him alone. Like, no, it's going to be minor, but they're going to have a huge crash out. I'm not going to say this is going to be most of the Superman fans out there. I'm not going to say this is most of the Snyder fans out there. This is always just a very loud minority. But these people are loud every time this new movie is brought up. And they're going to be even louder once it comes out. And there's going to be this small little line, small little moment, something that will be the cornerstone of their bitching for the next few weeks after this movie comes out. Mark my words.
Absolutely.
I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be there.
I agree with that. I guarantee if there's even a gay person in the movie, it's going to be woke Superman fucking posts everywhere. God forbid they show a trans person too. Oh my God. You'd be fighting the Southern Baptist Church and the Proud Boys and whoever else can fucking get up in arms about it. But I will also say DC Comics itself is very bad about this when it comes to Superman. I don't remember what artist it was, but I was listening to an artist talk about his work on Superman, and he wasn't with DC anymore. And he was showing an image that he had drawn once, and he drew an image of Superman flying. It's that simple. And he was just, doing his normal flight thing. And he had Superman's arms kind of like to the side, and like he wasn't necessarily doing anything with them because obviously he doesn't use his arms to fly. So you can put him wherever the fuck you want to. It doesn't matter. And DC editorial came back and was like, you have to put him in the like fists with his arms out, like doing something, because he doesn't look strong enough flying if he isn't making one of those poses, and Superman is supposed to always look really strong. And it was just like, but why? Like, why does it matter? Superman can fly however the fuck he wants to. And God forbid you catch him in a moment when he's just like, yeah, I'm having a day. Like my arms aren't up in the air,
I'm on my way to save a bunch of lives. I don't need my arms in the air right now.
Yeah. Just felt like putting him down today. I'm Naruto flying. Like, it was like so weird. So yeah, I think that they're, they are already mindful of those things around the Superman character anyway. Now I know that James Gunn has been given like full reign to do whatever the fuck he wants to with it. So we'll see.
There's just going to be one line or something or one moment there where they're like, they're insulting us. They're insulting us who likes our characters realistic.
Yeah, maybe somebody will knock out a Nazi or something, and then they'll get really up in arms about it.
Maybe.
Well, like literally from the trailers where there's like a war and like the interview with between Superman and Lois, where he's like, I stopped a war. I'm like, are they gonna change that with like world events happening right now? I'm like, I wonder if that's going to have like if there's gonna be something indicated in there where like
that scene with Superman rescuing Barovia, like rescuing the Barovian citizens or rescuing the citizens from the Barovian army, is meant to intentionally reference Israel and Gaza right now, and how if someone just showed up and saved everybody, how up in arms the governments of the world would get. So I think that I don't imagine they're going to change.
I think
that.
We're too close,
like
to the release date, and the trailers has had it so much, like I don't think they would. But I wonder if there would be like in talks with the studio being like, do we need to change? Like, there's definitely going to be a discussion of like, can that stay in? But they do that with like everything. So
So, Landon, is that your whole theory?
That's my whole theory, that there is just going to be one line or moment that they're all going to be like, see as an insult directly to them.
Randy, I see you queuing something up over there. What do you got?
I don't have like a full-fledged like theory. But I was watching the trailers and like trying to piece everything together. The main theory is the kaiju is going to play zero role in this movie. It's going to be either the opening or probably the ending. And it's just going to be a nothing thing. So that's one of my theories. Cause like the like state of the city and the state of like him in costume and like him flying around saving people, I think that'd be a good like, because he saves like a woman who's about to get stomped.
Yeah.
And he saves the little girl who's like about to get like hit with a bunch of like oxygen tanks.
Yeah, that also happens.
which like that, but there's like kaiju activity, like it's a big foot. So I'm like, that's going to be either his introduction of saving them, or but like I don't know how that works with the Barovia stuff, if it's just that and then he runs over to Barovia. I'm wondering if it's going to be the very end of the movie, everything's cool, and that's just him like going about his day. And I think they've done a lot in like the newest trailer with Lex talking about like, who I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill that interviewer you always talk to, and whoever raised you I'm going to kill. And like he says, when whoever raised you, and it shows like Ma and Pa Kent and like him, and then it cuts to him in like a prison, in like where they have him like in prison, like Lex, and he turns and he goes, I'm gonna kill them too. And I'm like, that's the only part you see his mouth move for, and I don't think that's the line he says in the movie. I think it's like, not I'm gonna kill all these people and I'm gonna kill them too. I think when he says I'm gonna kill them too, it's something completely different. But the thing in that scene is there's someone in that room behind him. Have you seen that picture? I don't have it.
It's Metamorpho.
Well, they say, like in an interview, James Gunn and Nicholas Hoult talk about him, and they refer to him as Mr. Handsome, which is like a obscure. That's because it's definitely
Metamorpho is ugly as fuck.
Well, it's he's like all white though, and I don't know if it's Metamorpho, but it's definitely not Mr. Handsome, because that's some like obscure.
There was
whatever.
Definitely a newer HD trailer that just recently dropped. It has a scene, and it shows Metamorpho sitting on a chair behind Superman, and his fist
is glowing.
His left fist is turned into kryptonite, and so he's in Superman's prison cell to continue to radiate kryptonite so that Superman doesn't get his powers back. And then there's a later scene. It's the scene where it shows Superman punching his way out of the cell. Metamorpho's hand is glowing white hot like the sun. So the thought is that during the time that Superman is imprisoned in Lex's cells, Metamorpho's holding him with kryptonite, and at some point Clark talks him into helping him, and then he instead powers him up with the power of the sun, and he breaks out.
And then the reasoning that I've heard people talk about is this image, because he's holding a little baby there, and people assume that that's Metamorpho's son, who is I had it pulled up. He has a name.
I don't want to steal your thunder on that, so carry on with the thing about the name of Metamorpho's son. But I'm looking at it. It's all green and it's got red eyes. That's a fucking Martian. That's exactly what Martian Manhunter looks like.
No, yeah. It's Joseph Mason.
Yeah.
Joey Mason. But yeah, he's definitely like in the comic that I'm looking at, he's like multicolored, like
just like Metamorpho.
Like a patchwork. It's sort of like a I don't know, like a giraffe pattern, but different colors, like white and purple and brown and yellow, like on his face.
Yep.
But like these tentacles are coming from Metamorpho? Is that something he can do?
Not that I'm aware of. No,
and then this is Crypto, because you can see his little cape and his paws.
But I will also say that based on that scene where they're in the prison, this doesn't look like it's the prison. This definitely looks like it's somewhere in space.
There's a lot of things where like the city is like being ripped in half in like cubes.
Yeah.
And then there's a
thing where it divides the ocean.
Yeah.
With
and people are talking about
cubes.
Quantum. They say it in Peacemaker, quantum something space.
Yeah.
Where it's like, bigger on the inside kind of thing. I'm not sure where I'm going with all this, but that's sort of it.
Yeah. So you think this is interior of the Earth in a quantum?
But this space is the dude that I'm talking about. That's behind him in this scene. That people that like James Gunn and Nick Hoult have called Mr. Handsome.
Okay.
And I don't think that's
not
Metamorpho, because he got a little egghead. But Mr. Handsome is like a criminal mastermind Catwoman one-time villain.
Yeah.
And so like this has to be like a pseudonym for him. Because of who he really is, which I have
I'm
no
not
idea.
real sure who that is or who that's supposed to be.
I don't know if he's powering the prison or. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was thinking maybe that's Parasite, but probably not.
Yeah. Well, you know, and you don't know what they fix in post, but Parasite
Mhm.
is definitely purple, and that is
Yeah.
a grayish greenish human being.
In the trailer, this is I think a shot from
He looks like a gray
set.
kind of.
but or a white Martian,
Oh, could be.
maybe.
Although
That
white
just popped in my
Martians,
head.
and
They're
it
bigger.
depends on the iteration of them, but they're like large and like
Well, they're
insectile.
shapeshifters, right?
Yeah, they're like scary as fuck though, in their base forms.
But
But also so are the green Martians. They look kind of the same. They're just different
Yeah.
colors.
But they call him Mr. Handsome, which like I don't know what he's doing, don't know what his purpose is, but I don't think that would be Ultraman unsuited. Surely not, because he's way shorter than Nicholas Hoult, or Lex Luthor. I don't really have like a. And then at the end of another trailer, they posted this. It was on like the DC page, which is just like promotion.
Yeah,
But like I'm like, why these three?
yeah.
And Bizarro, I think, is in All Star Superman.
A lot of people are in All-Star Superman.
Yeah, but
I don't think Bizarro is in All Star Superman.
there's something. One of these had a
No,
Bizarro.
he goes to doesn't he go to Bizarro World and see Zabaro, that one different Superman in the Bizarro world that's not Bizarro
In the comics or the movie?
in the
'Cause
comics?
I don't think I've ever read the comic. I've watched. I
was trying
have
to
the
skim.
movie.
I was trying to skim through it to like create my theory, but it was like there was. I'm pretty sure it was a Bizarro, but there was also like other Bizarros that were like white lumpy people, and I was like, I don't know if that's like just a Bizarro being, and like the cube world kind of thing. I'm
I
like,
don't know. I'm
is
gonna have
that
to
what this machine?
look harder at that. So, what's
is-
your theory here?
Is there like a machine? If maybe that it's Bizarro. Again, I don't really have one. I was kind of just gonna try and like riff off what I think the story's gonna be, like the order that it goes in based on the trailer.
So, what I do know is that it has been confirmed that the structure of this film is that it's basically going to be 7 days in Superman's life, and so we start like day one, and I think that the theory is that it's the kaiju is day one is where it starts, and all of the things that happen in the movie, everything we've seen in the trailers, happen at some point in those 7 days, where we start off with Superman in his fresh blues and reds being Superman, and you see that per day with Lex coming after him, he just gets more and more like wore out and beat down. And by the we've seen scenes that at some point in the movie he's like burnt and he's just covered in black, and I know that like the theory is that that's from the kaiju fight, but I don't know if that's later in the film.
There's also a part where he has like red around his eyes, like lasered, or like people are like maybe he tried to use his laser vision while being depowered.
I think that's from the scene where he kills all the Lex bots with his laser vision, and
they
spins
are
in a
robots because there's also people in suits, and I was like,
Yeah.
surely they have to be robots.
Superman wouldn't be blasting them
Otherwise,
with
like
his
I don't
laser
think James
vision if it
Gunn
was
is going to make
people.
a killer
Mhm.
Superman.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's just from running his laser vision constantly. He's like burned the flesh around his eyeballs, because we know that Superman's lasers can hurt Superman. That's how he shaves.
Because and then I was trying to like, why is like what beats him up? Is it him escaping from the prison and then being like beat up, and that's where he like flees to the Fortress of Solitude, and like Crypto like comes
Yeah,
and
I'm not
grabs
sure
him?
what order that's going to happen in.
Because like I think it's because there's a with the Guy Gardner like doing like the hands flipping the tanks and stuff like that's in Barovia. So I'm like, is Superman like, when does he show up in Barovia? Does he show up first, or does the Justice League show up and then he shows up?
Yeah,
because they're
I'm not sure.
being pushed back. And I think Lex Luthor is funding that war, and that's why he's mad at him for stopping it. Because like in the thing he says, I stopped a war, and she's like, maybe, but like,
Right?
did you talk to the president?
Yeah,
like,
with no sanctions.
Because I think that's going to happen. And then like I think the Hammer of Barovia is going to show up, because that's like in it obviously. And I think he attacks the Justice League tower, because when he says like up there big guy, or eyes on me big guy, and then flies up, he's like flying up the side of the Justice League tower.
I thought that was the Daily Planet.
There's a
no,
like
it's
a
the
JL that's on
yes
his thing. So whatever
it's
that
Lord
is.
It's the Lord Tech building, and the Justice League symbols on the side of it. You're right. That is
So like
accurate.
I think he's maybe attacking the Justice League for
then also
repercussions.
Yeah, okay, yes. So maybe. So I do have a theory that falls under the Hammer of
Mhm.
Barovia as well. If you don't mind moving on to that.
Yeah.
So if you'll put that image up of the Hammer of Barovia real quick. So this is both promotional drawings of the Hammer of Barovia and a scene from the movie of the Hammer of Barovia in its armor. Now we know that you can go ahead and take that down. Now we know that whenever there are scenes showing Superman fighting the Hammer of Barovia, and he is blasting laser vision out of his eyes. He is fighting Superman, like his power level is equivalent, and he's fighting Superman at an equivalent power level. And a lot of people are wondering if that's that Ultraman character in the armor, whether it's somebody else entirely, and who is wielding this armor. What I will say is that I have not heard anyone speculate, and I think that the thing that makes the most sense, it's Occam's razor. Can you show that image down right there? Can you show that image right there? So this right here in the gold armor is from Crisis on Infinite Earths. And this is the good version of Lex Luthor, known as Alexander Luthor. And Alexander Luthor is one of the heroes of Crisis on Infinite Earths. But much like Lex Luthor, he wears a power armor. And Alexander Luthor's power armor is gold. And I only show this so you guys can see that we have a Lex Luthor in gold armor. Now, if you will go up 2 images from that. No, actually go. There's another one.
Did I miss it?
You can just show the other one then. And then if you find the other, yeah. It wouldn't work. Okay, just show the other one. So this image, I had an image of its first appearance, but this image is Lex Luthor in his power armor. Now, I don't know if it looks like it to you guys, and obviously Lex's armor has gone through many different iterations throughout its history, because it first was introduced in the comics in like the 60s. But that kind of looks like the Hammer of Barovia's armor. I've seen several different versions of Lex's armor, and they all kind of take this general rounded metal shape. So if you can show the old hammer there, again.
I got the other one to work.
Okay.
Bring it up in a second.
There's even, and I know it's the Barovian flag on his chest, but if you look at the image to the right, it's actually the shape of the chest piece on Lex's classic power armor. Can you bring up that other image? When you said you just got to work.
Okay.
So this is the first appearance of Lex's power armor in the comics. So this thing's been around forever. I think that the Hammer of Barovia is just Lex. I think it is Lex trying to fight Clark in his power armor, and I think that this is James Gunn's first iteration of Lex's power armor on screen. And I think that's going to be the big reveal with the Hammer of Barovia, is that it is just Lex.
I would agree with you. Go ahead. Sorry.
So, couple things. One, if we were comparing every character in DC that used power armor, there would be so many characters, especially ones that went up against Superman. Because for a lot of characters, they need a powered suit of armor to go toe-to-toe with Superman.
You're not wrong.
Secondly, Lex Luthor is a narcissist. He would either A, have his face revealed, or B, have his fucking initials on his chest. Like, he is that type of person to where if he beats Superman, he'd want the world to know. I think this is just a little too incognito for Lex.
I will say that you are right with the caveat that if Lex is trying to bankroll a war in Barovia and back them, and he also wants an opportunity to test out his new power armor before he takes it against Superman, fully expecting Superman to stay out of the Barovian conflict, and then Superman shows up and fucks up his plan, he would, of course, fly straight to Metropolis and try to beat the shit out of Superman for ruining his plan, because Lex's anger is what always gets the best of him.
Counterpoint. Okay, going along with that. The person who is the hammer is not Lex, but this is like Mark 1 Lex armor.
That's
this
what
is
I
him
think.
giving it
I
to the
think
army
it's-
to test it, and then we see like version 2 later on in the movie.
Like, regardless of if it is Lex or not, it is very like Hammer Barovia is an original character for this movie,
Yes,
right?
he is
So I think
original.
it
That's the
is-
other thing.
It
This
has
is
to
not a
be-
character that exists in the
It
DC
has
canon
to
at
be
all.
designed by Lex, or like using Lex tech, which like there's a picture that's one of my theories on it is why he's funding the war, because like the tanks don't look like normal tanks. They
Mhm.
got like
Yeah, they're
the
tech.
like they have like a shell on top where it like looks sleek and kind of futuristic, but still a tank.
The barrels
I'm
are
like,
like twisted
That's
art.
that's
It's
like Lex Luthor, like
Mhm.
new Lex Luthor tank, or like first state of the art tank. And I think he like maybe I don't think he's in it like what we've seen in the trailer, but I do think there's one picture, if I can never find it. I think he will be in it at one point, because there's what's the lady that's with Lex?
the engineer.
No, the like
Oh, Miss. God, what is her name?
there's a picture of her.
I know who she. Oh, yeah,
Of
that's
her
the
taking
thing.
a selfie.
Yes,
Well, so like one of
Superman's
the
fighting the
trailers,
Hammer Barovia, and she's standing
he's
in a
fighting
window.
someone, but they said in a trailer that there's like you see drones throughout the thing, like little pods,
Mhm.
and they say like he said like I don't know if it's confirmed or if it's just a theory, but those are all drones so that Lex can like monitor
Film it.
things.
Yeah.
And it's the Hammer Barovia in the background. She's taking a selfie. I don't know, like I didn't know who she was at the time, but I was like, why is she doing that? Like, you know, if
She's
the city's under
I
attack.
forget
But
her
there's
name,
a
but
bunch
she's a
of
character from
drones.
the Richard Donner
Eve
Superman
something?
movies.
Is it
Yeah.
Eve something?
Miss
there's a
Tessmacher.
bunch of-
Miss Tessmacher.
Yeah, there's a bunch of drones like around that one. Serena Stewart says hi.
Hi, Riri.
But there's a bunch of drones around that one, and I'm like, that would be the Lex, and I think it's nighttime maybe. But like,
No,
that
it's
would be-
daylight.
Is it daylight? Okay.
Yeah, it's daylight.
But that would be, I think, whenever Lex suits up, and maybe he's trying, like, he makes this suit, and the reason he's going with the engineer and his power Ultraman guy to the Fortress of Solitude is because he knows Superman's injured or distracted by a guy in a suit of armor, and he needs a power source. And then that's where you see Crypto fighting them, and like the Superman bots. What are they called?
They're the
Like Legion?
no, they're the Fortress bots. They're just Kryptonian bots.
Yeah, whatever they're called. But like they're fighting, and that's why like Superman's not there, because he's either distracted or he's being healed by the big sun laser. And that's like their opportunity, because he needs a power source for.
I think
what better than a Kryptonian Fortress of Solitude battery?
Yeah, I think those occurrences happen at separate times between Crypto dragging Clark into the fortress and the bots saving him.
But we do know Crypto's at the fortress.
Yes,
so.
and the second time when they are in when Lex and the engineer and Ultraman are in the fortress, I don't think those two occurrences are the same. I don't think Clark's somewhere in the fortress when they break in.
I doubt that would happen, but
I do think, though, there's scenes where Clark goes home to rest at Mom and Pa Kent's farm, and he's clearly recovering from something there. And
my question is he, though?
There's some news report that comes on, or somebody attacking, and Clark says, Ma, grab my boots. And then he straps up and goes back to Metropolis to fight. And I think
she says, I cleaned your boots, I'll go get them.
Okay.
But
and I think that post the Fortress bots saving him and batting him with the sun's rays and getting him back into the fight, he then goes he then realizes he cannot go back to the fortress because Lex has broken into it. And so instead he goes back to Kansas. It's a Smallville. But I don't think those two scenes are the same. I don't think they're going to show up after whoever beats the shit out of him, Doomsday, leaves him with a punctured lung. I don't think that that's the same scene as where Ultraman, the engineer, and Lex go to the Fortress of Solitude. I think those are separate.
I do agree with that. I think one of my thoughts is the kaiju being the end scene is because he could just be hanging out at Ma and Pa's at the beginning, and what he sees that he needs to go do is a war going on in Barovia that like the Justice League shows up for, and
That
then get into trouble of some kind. Because you also see Hawkgirl fly out of a building, and all like the buildings have like, you know, like the little Kremlin like not circle, but like the Kremlin shapes. She flies out of the window with somebody, don't know who.
Yeah.
But like that's not Delaware.
Yeah.
You know, like we don't like that's a different country, because like most of the American stuff you see at least one flag, or like I saw a thing where they said it's like a Delaware flag, and some of them they're like Metropolis is sometimes in Delaware.
Yes, and yeah, it is
So,
on occasion. Sometimes it's New York, sometimes it's Delaware. Which Delaware I think makes more sense because it's supposed to be across the bay from Gotham, and Delaware and New Jersey are that close, I think. Which is where Gotham is canonically.
So like the kaiju thing too, I'm like, which I guess the city would be put back together unless it's like a time skip, because he's pretty clean in all the kaiju stuff.
It's true.
But like she did just say, I just cleaned your boots, and like because he doesn't look beat up whenever he.
So you think that's
saves.
Like the end of the
like
movie,
like a little
like
stinger of like he's back to business, because like what is the kaiju? It shows him flying through the fire. He's not affected by it at all.
Right. Yeah.
And so like I don't think that's a threat unless that's the like, because I'm thinking maybe he's not part of the Justice League, and that's why it's a big deal. They're in Barovia. He shows up. He's not authorized to be there.
Well,
So,
yeah,
like,
because the appearance of
yeah.
Maxwell Lord in the Peacemaker series shows that Maxwell Lord is working with the government. So the first trailer for Peacemaker season 2 has shown Sean Gunn's Maxwell Lord interviewing Peacemaker for the Justice League. And we already know that he was working with Task Force X, and so he's part of the government. So there is some government oversight between Maxwell Lord and the Justice League, and that there's a good chance that the Justice League, being not necessarily an American superhero team, is allowed to work outside of the borders of the U.S., and Superman isn't tied to any one government and is working on his own. And I think that's some of the problem that he's running into, is that he's got the power of a god and he doesn't answer to anyone. And I think that you're probably somewhere, you know, within the realm of what's happening, and that the Justice League is working outside of the American borders, and which is why they probably encounter each other in Barovia.
And like they, you know how in Invincible they want Omni-Man to join up with the what's their Justice League called?
The Guardians of the Globe.
Guardians of the Globe, and he doesn't want to. And I'm wondering if like they've offered it to him, but like he doesn't want to work for Maxwell Lord, because I didn't even realize that was part of it.
But do you also wonder? I also wonder, and I think this might be. It would be too soon, but that doesn't mean it won't happen, because they've done it too soon in every other version of Superman recently. But if my theory is correct that Ultraman is actually Doomsday under there, do you think that this movie ends with Clark dying and setting up the DC universe for there to be the death and return of Superman storyline with all the new superheroes showing up?
I think, fun idea. I think
Can
that
you show the comments, please?
it may just be that Superman dies in this movie and is resurrected as part of the 7 days. And it's just like played kind of as a joke, kind of as a way of getting over it, just being like, yeah, this is just another regular day for Superman. He dies and comes back.
Could be. I don't see them playing it that fast and loose with the death and return of Superman. I think everybody is kind of unhappy with the way it happened in the Snyderverse. The television series, Smallville, handled Doomsday a couple times. Lois and The Adventures of Superman, or whatever the newest one with Tyler Hoechlin, I forget the name of that show. Superman and Lois. Superman and Lois handled Doomsday. He was seen in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Obviously, Justice League handles the return of Superman. It's just been handled really poorly by DC for a while. And I don't imagine right off the bat they're going to not give it the ceremony that it deserves. But if that is the case, and it is revealed that Ultraman is not Ultraman, that he is in fact the Kryptonian monster that evolves every time it's defeated to never be killable. Do you think that would set up for like future DCU and eventually get to the Death and Return of Superman?
I don't know. I don't feel like if they are wanting to be careful with how they do the Death and Return of Superman, and like you said, it was handled so poorly in the past. I think they would probably want to veer away from at least ending their movie with it, similar to a Batman v Superman. I don't think they'd want to harken back to their failed attempt so quickly.
I don't think James Gunn like Superman, right? Like, because he wants the, like, you know, he said he wants the soft one. He wants someone you'd want to hug. I don't think you would kill him in the first movie. I think maybe you could because like this image of him like this. Oh, well. Like this image is like a big black hole, because there's a lot of like black hole kind of stuff going on in the background of several things. I'm like, this could be the end of the movie. This little kid, whatever that thing is, Metamorpho, Crypto, and Superman get warped into a black hole, and that's it. Like, that's not the end of the movie, but like they're gone.
Yeah.
Until the sequel, because then like Kara has a reason to like look for Superman because she has his dog, and
I think
like,
that the story is the other way around. Crypto is Kara's dog.
No, that's what I mean. But like, she's like, I need to find my cousin. He took my dog. Into a black hole. But I think like that could be like the end of it, where it's not death, but it's like he's gone.
I have heard some theories that like geometric like opening that happens in the water is going to end up being the Phantom Zone. And that might be what Clark's looking at there.
Like they're all having to like jump into it to stabilize it, or Mickey Kingdom of Hearts, where someone has to like close the darkness from the other side. I've never played that game, but that's something that happens. But here's the image of whatever you said her name was. But like you see, like they could be planes. Like excuse me.
Like those are the drones. But there's other images that are closer and show the drones. They're definitely so. Fan theory initially was that those are the T-spheres, Mr. Terrific's drones, but they're very different in shape to Mr. Terrific's drones.
They're like little triangle boxes, and then there's first.
That is the same scene from a different angle where the Hammer Barovia is lasering a building. The place that is being lasered, the office, is they are coming up with, it's a marketing department having a marketing meeting with storyboards for Superman's, I forget the name of it, Superman's World's version of Oreos. And they're like, it's a marketing and advertising meeting for fucking Oreos. That the Hammer Barovia shows. They're like,
it's the stuff that like Martian Manhunter goes crazy for, right?
Yeah,
I can't think of what they're called.
Like creams or something. They're like tasty cookie creams or something.
I say Hydrox, but that's just a real thing.
But he literally like flies up to their office and just fucking lasers the glass out of their, in the middle of their marketing meeting, and you can see in the trailer like the actual like storyboards to the side with like the cookie is like a sunrise and it's like replacing the sun, and also it's like silly as shit. But I don't think that has any bearing on like why they're doing it there. I think that's I don't know why the Hammer Barovia decided like fly up here, blast the cookie company's advertising department.
And then unless it's Martian Manhunter being controlled in some way.
But Martian Manhunter doesn't have laser vision. But also a normal human doesn't have laser vision, so yes, it could be the suit.
But I mean, I guess he wouldn't want to do laser vision because he doesn't like fire. But maybe he wants the cookies. He doesn't like their current campaign. But what is this? This has been in every trailer, I think, and I can't figure out what it is. It's like something on. They're having a loving embrace. It's nighttime. I think he's like, "Oh, I gotta go save the city," and she goes, "Oh yes," and it's nothing like, "I gotta go save the city. See you later." It's like, "I gotta go. Let's have a slow hug." Like, what's going on back there? Is this another nothing?
There's
like
also
thing happening.
The very first image of the movie that was released was this in the background with Superman sitting in a chair putting his boots on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely like he's not in any rush, but also you can see it is purple energy being met with green energy. So I think it is Guy Gardner fighting someone out in the city skylight, and Superman's like was ready to end his day,
Mm-hmm.
and he has to strap back on and go back out and fight again. The theory that I have seen, and I think it's a good one, but Cersei from Creature Commandos, which is another James Gunn property that just aired on HBO Max. It was animated, but that is what Cersei's power looks like in Creature Commandos. And the thought is that it's Cersei attacking Metropolis, and Guy Gardner's fighting her, and Superman is just kind of like, well, it's a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I kept seeing that. I'm like, it doesn't seem like it's super relevant. Like that could be the opening of a movie or like an act where it's like, well, I gotta go save the stuff. It doesn't seem like main story plot relevance. And then the last thing, my biggest theory. This Cat Grant, right?
Yeah, that's Cat Grant.
It's gotta be like who. Yeah. Everybody else has like black blonde.
No, that's
hair.
Confirmed. I mean, she's
like
definitely playing Cat Grant.
I was like, it's gotta be, and like she's definitely gonna be in the Supergirl movie, right? Because in the Supergirl TV show, like Cat Grant, like has her
series,
own.
Cat Grant
I don't know
was
how
the Lex Luthor of the but
no. She was a good guy.
I know she's a good guy, but she's like the rich
in,
person that's investigating Superman. Supergirl. That was not a canonical thing that is canon to.
But I knew
Supergirl
she's like real eccentric and like worked at the Daily Planet.
They tried to do like a Devil Wears Prada plus Supergirl together in one series with Cat Grant, but no, Cat Grant traditionally works at the Daily Planet.
She has big protagonist energy with her hair color and wardrobe.
So, but yes, that is the DCU version of Cat Grant in that scene. Okay, well, this was some fun, mindless speculation. Thank you guys for joining us on Theory X. This was fun. I enjoyed this. That is going to do it for us. That's the end of the show. We have made it almost 2 hours. Great job, guys. Jen, we really missed you. Landon, you want to say anything to the nice folks?
I don't think there's anything much more to say other than thank you all for coming in, chatting in the chat. We can just do this to a bunch of cameras, but you're all the ones who make this a show. And thank you as we continue on to change and adapt the show in the future.
I can agree with that. Randy, anything you want to say?
Yeah, my next theory for Superman.
Jesus Christ, Randy. We're ending the show.
Yeah, no, I don't really have it. I thank you all for watching. Landon always says it more eloquently than I do, and then I know I should never make
anybody follow Landon. That being said, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Like Landon said, we couldn't do the show without you. We would, but we'd rather not. You guys are amazing. You've been great, and we've been Cutting Edge Hero.
See y'all.